For decades, millions of Americans didn't just shop at Kmart, they grew up in it. It was where families bought school clothes, Christmas gifts, lawn chairs, and blue light specials that felt like events. At its peak, Kmart was not struggling, not fading, and not behind. It was the largest retailer in the United States, bigger than Walmart, bigger than Target. Its collapse was not inevitable, and that is what makes this story matter. The story of Kmart begins long before the first large format store ever opened. In 1899, Sebastian Sparing Kresge founded the SS Kresge Company in Detroit, Michigan. His idea was simple but powerful: sell everyday goods at low prices to working-class Americans. Kresge stores followed the 5 and dime model, offering basic household items for 5 or 10 cents. This approach exploded in popularity during the early 20th century, especially as urban populations grew and consumer culture expanded. By the 1920s and 1930s, SS Kresge stores were everywhere. The company survived the Great Depression by sticking to its low-price philosophy, something that allowed it to outperform many competitors. By the mid-20th century, Kresge was one of the most successful retail chains in America. But the retail landscape was changing. Downtown shopping districts were declining, suburbs were expanding, and Americans were buying cars at unprecedented rates. The future of retail was no longer small urban stores. It was big, suburban, and built around parking lots. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, Kresge leadership saw the shift coming. Discount department stores were emerging, offering a wide variety of goods under one roof at lower prices than traditional department stores. Competitors like Walmart and Target were just getting started, but Kresge had capital, experience, and a massive existing retail operation to build from. In 1962, the first Kmart discount store opened in Garden City, Michigan. That same year, Walmart opened its first store in Rogers, Arkansas, and Target opened its first location in Roseville, Minnesota. At the time, there was nothing to suggest Kmart would not dominate them both. Kmart's model was aggressive expansion, large stores, broad product selection, competitive pricing. The company moved fast, opening dozens, then hundreds of locations across the United States. Unlike Walmart, which focused heavily on rural areas, Kmart expanded into suburban and urban markets where population density was higher. This gave it immediate visibility and massive foot traffic. By the late 1960s and throughout the 1970s, Kmart became a retail powerhouse. The stores were instantly recognizable, with wide aisles, bright lighting, and a focus on volume sales. The now famous blue light special became part of American culture. When the blue light flashed, customers rushed to grab discounted items announced over the intercom. It turned shopping into an experience, something few competitors had managed to do at scale. By 1976, Kmart had become the largest discount retailer in the United States. Its growth continued into the early 1980s, and in 1987, Kmart officially surpassed Sears to become the largest retailer in America by sales. At its peak, Kmart operated more than 2,000 stores and generated tens of billions of dollars in annual revenue. But even as Kmart dominated the retail world, cracks were already forming beneath the surface. Unlike Walmart, which invested heavily in logistics, distribution efficiency, and real-time inventory tracking, Kmart relied on older systems and decentralized operations. Store managers often had more autonomy. But this came at the cost of consistency. Inventory management was uneven. Shelves were sometimes overstocked with slow-moving items, while fast-selling products ran out. Kmart also made a series of strategic decisions that diluted its focus. Instead of reinvesting aggressively into its core retail operation, the company diversified. In the 1980s, Kmart acquired several non-retail businesses, including Builders Square, Payless drugstores, and even stakes in companies like Sports Authority. While diversification was popular in corporate America at the time, it pulled attention and capital away from improving Kmart stores themselves. Meanwhile, Walmart was doing the opposite. Sam Walton's company was pouring money into supply chain technology, building a tightly controlled distribution network, and demanding efficiency from every part of the operation. Walmart's systems allowed it to move products faster, cheaper, and more reliably than competitors. Kmart, despite its size, could not match that efficiency. Store conditions also began to decline. While Kmart stores were still busy, many locations started to look dated. Layouts remained largely unchanged while competitors modernized. Maintenance was often deferred. The customer experience became inconsistent from store to store. By the late 1980s, Kmart was still enormous, still profitable, and still familiar to millions of Americans, but it was no longer innovating at the pace required to stay ahead. Walmart was catching up fast, and Target was carving out a niche with cleaner stores and more stylish branding. Kmart had everything it needed to adapt: capital, scale, brand recognition. What it lacked was urgency. As the retail world entered the 1990s, competition intensified, margins tightened, and efficiency became the deciding factor between growth and stagnation. Kmart, once the undisputed leader, was about to face challenges it was not prepared to meet. By the early 1990s, Kmart was no longer setting the pace in American retail. It was reacting. Walmart had surpassed Kmart in annual sales by 1990, and the shift was not temporary. It marked a fundamental change in how retail worked in the United States. Walmart's advantage was not branding or store size, it was systems. The company had built one of the most advanced logistics and distribution networks in the world, using centralized warehouses, satellite communication, and real-time inventory tracking. This allowed Walmart to keep shelves stocked, prices low, and costs tightly controlled. Every part of the operation was designed for efficiency. Kmart did not match this transformation. Its supply chain remained fragmented, its technology outdated, and its internal coordination weak. Products often arrived late or in the wrong quantities. Customers encountered empty shelves for popular items while other goods sat unsold. These problems were not always visible from the outside, but they quietly eroded profitability. Target, meanwhile, took a different path. Rather than competing purely on price, it invested in cleaner stores, better layouts, and more appealing private label products. Target positioned itself as slightly more upscale while still affordable. Kmart, stuck between Walmart's efficiency and Target's image, failed to clearly define what it was supposed to be. Leadership instability made matters worse. Throughout the 1990s, Kmart cycled through executives and strategic plans. Each new leadership team attempted course corrections, but none addressed the core structural problems deeply enough. Store remodels were inconsistent. Technology upgrades were slow, capital spending lagged behind competitors. Kmart also struggled as consumer expectations changed. Shoppers increasingly expected accurate pricing, reliable availability, and a consistent experience across locations. Kmart's decentralized model made this difficult. What worked in one store failed in another. The rise of the internet exposed these weaknesses even further. Kmart launched Kmart.com in 1998, but the site was poorly integrated with its stores and inventory systems. Online orders were unreliable. Stock information was often inaccurate. Unlike Walmart and Target, Kmart did not treat e-commerce as a core pillar of its business. It remained an add-on rather than a transformation. As sales declined and costs rose, Kmart's financial position deteriorated rapidly. In January 2002, Kmart filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. At the time, it was the largest retail bankruptcy in U.S. history. More than 280 stores were closed, and tens of thousands of employees lost their jobs. The bankruptcy should have been a reset. Instead, it became a pause before deeper damage. In 2003, hedge fund manager Eddie Lampert gained control of Kmart while it was still emerging from bankruptcy. Lampert was not a traditional retailer. He viewed Kmart primarily through the lens of finance and assets, particularly real estate. Under his leadership, Kmart exited bankruptcy in 2003, but investment in stores, technology, and customer experience remained minimal. In 2005, Lampert engineered a merger between Kmart and Sears, another struggling retail giant. The deal created Sears Holdings, a company that theoretically combined two iconic American brands. In reality, it joined two failing businesses without fixing the underlying problems of either. The merger did not lead to modernization. Instead, Sears Holdings operated as a collection of internal divisions that competed with one another for capital. Technology systems remained outdated and incompatible. Stores continued to deteriorate. Shelves went empty, fixtures broke and were not replaced. Customers noticed. While Walmart and Target expanded their online capabilities, introduced store pickup, improved mobile apps, and invested billions into infrastructure, Sears Holdings cut costs. Profitable brands were sold off. Real estate was spun spun into separate entities. Short-term financial maneuvers replaced long-term retail strategy. Kmart stores became symbols of decline. Locations were dimly lit, understaffed, and poorly stocked. Vendors reduced shipments due to payment concerns. Shoppers stopped coming. Each store closure reduced scale, which increased costs, which justified more closures. In 2018, Sears Holdings filed for bankruptcy again. By then, the outcome was inevitable. Hundreds more Kmart stores closed. The brand that once defined discount retail in America was nearly gone. By the early 2020s, only a handful of Kmart locations remained, mostly operating quietly without national relevance. The name survived, but the business that made it powerful did not. Kmart's collapse was not caused by a single mistake. It was the result of years of underinvestment, failure to modernize, poor leadership decisions, and an inability to adapt to a changing retail world. It had the scale, the capital, and the brand to survive. What it lacked was execution. The story of Kmart is not just about one company, it is a warning. In retail, size does not guarantee survival. Efficiency, innovation, and willingness to change matter more than legacy ever will. Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed learning something new today, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment telling us what you thought of this story.